All right, so Sucker Punch is the big movie of probably this month. Down towards the end, not too much has come out. But Zack's...
Kind of the first blockbuster of the year.
Zack Snyder, his first written and directed original material. Everything else has been based off comic books and or kids' books.
Remake of Dawn of the Dead.
Remakes. Yeah. But this has been... so it's about two little girls at the beginning who inherit their dead mother's fortunes, and their abusive father is outraged, so he goes on one of his outrage rampages.
Drunken fit,
and the events conspire, and he has to commit her to a mental institution. So she gets to this mental institution, and she's messed up inside because of all the things that she's gone through, and she's decided that she needs to escape. So she befriends these 5 other patients there, and they escape. But because the escape is going to be kind of boring, Zack Snyder does what he does and puts in these ridiculous fantasy adventures through it all. So instead of just taking taking a knife from somebody, she has to battle 4 giant samurais with weapons and machine guns in a sailor outfit in the middle of winter. And then she gets the metaphorical item for her freedom. But so it's just a big giant escape planned through a ridiculous fantasy world. And it's fantastic. I knew this was going to happen.
Oh, God. Okay, go ahead.
The 2 major problems I have with this movie is there are about 4 levels of fantasy too much. It goes from ultra realism to the mental institution, which then has a kind of fantasy world put over it. And then there's the extra fantasy put on top of that. And then she has even more fantasies added to it. So you have absolutely no idea what's actually going on. You have no idea if any of the actual scenes are taking place, which really bugged me. It just kind of jumps from this weird Moulin Rouge wannabe moments to giant computerized mech battles. Which those I loved. The ultra top fantasies where she was battling steam-powered Nazis was awesome. All that kind of stuff just was my bread and butter. The stuff
in the trailer.
My bread and butter. But then there's just this weird burlesque thing going on at the same time. And it has absolutely no point other than to cover up the fact that they're in a gross, seedy mental institution, which would have been a much better background compared to the super fantasies. So they just he decided, he was like, oh, this is too gritty, so let's pretty it up. And then just put a bunch of prostitution into it so that it sounds seedier than it is. And that was really disappointing. The plot could not develop based on what he did to it. And that was what really bugged me. But all the visual effects and stuff, and the cute girls and the explosions, dragon fights, yes.
Robots.
Yes,
Nazis,
Zack Snyder.
Dragons.
You rule. So I have to give it a B+.
A B+?
B+, because I just couldn't keep the plot.
Okay. Here we go. My original statement from this movie was, this is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest meets Showgirls as directed by someone obsessed with hentai and Xbox. Zack Snyder is a man-child. He has zero vision. I've discovered this now. It's always something I've always kind of thought, and now I know for sure he is a complete moron. He can't write a movie to save his life. Don't even try again. You described the plot just fine. There's all of these levels of fantasy, and it doesn't really matter at the end because the whole purpose of this thing is just so that he can direct the type of stuff he likes to direct. I think if this had been 5 digital shorts that you could download offline and just watch those cool scenes, and they didn't have to have any kind of context
on Xbox Live,
it would be fine. Yeah, or just cut scenes in a video game because that's what it feels like. It would have been fine. To try and create this whole plot surrounding it, it's sad. It's laughable at times. The acting is terrible. terrible. I mean, pretty much the main character, played by Emily Browning,
Barely speaks.
baby doll, is just pouting the whole time. And the other characters, it's very seedy, very leery, very disgusting use of women, and I objected to that greatly. It's very misogynistic, I think. It's trying to be like, oh, this is all this girl power, and, you know, let's get together, and we're going to fight these things together and save ourselves, but in the meantime, we can all the pervy 40-year-olds can look at us in these little Lolita outfits. And, I mean, it's like the cinematic equivalent of somebody discovering a laptop full of kiddie porn. And...
Wow, that is a hate.
Yeah, it's there are some striking visuals, and I think he's a good art director. I don't think he's a very good director, and I don't think he's a very good storyteller, especially. The scenes just kind of, whenever they come out of the fantasy realms, the scenes just die.
Nice.
I mean, as soon as they start going back into dialogue and stuff again, you're just completely bored until they're back in those realms again. And for that, I have to give the movie a D-. And I struggled on whether or not to give it an F because it really, I objected to it that much.
All right. Well,
So,
we're not friends anymore.
this is our last episode of Video Clerks.